Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We started the topic of hashing and we covered the hashing 1 lecture, although in the lecture I discussed the direct addressing mode of saving the data, where we store the data. We rather, first of all, we declare a memory location or an array or a table whose size is equivalent to the universe of keys, and then we have actual keys which are basically stored in each slot of the direct addressing table, right? So the direct addressing table had its own advantages and disadvantages, which I mentioned in the last lecture. So to overcome the limitations of the direct addressing table, the concept of hashing is actually introduced, and in hashing we have a table of some small and some fixed size. Like, instead of having a table which is equivalent to the universe of keys, for example, in case we have a universe of keys which has, let's say, this much amount of keys, right? Yeah, we have a domain which has got this much amount of keys in the universe of keys, right? So this is a very huge number which is impractical to be stored in the RAM, right? So this, and if you opt for direct addressing, then this much amount of data is quite challenging, or rather next to impossible, to be stored in the direct addressing table. So instead, what we do, we declare a table. By table I mean an array. It can be 1D array or 2D array depending upon the implementation, and the size of the table is fixed, but it's small, relatively small. For example, maybe for this amount of data, or in the universe of keys, we may opt for, let's say, 1000 cells in the hash table, right? So the idea is that instead of going for the complete universe of keys and making a slot for each and every key, what we do is that we make a small table of fixed size. Then what will happen is that, for example, okay, let me draw it for you. Now, for example, if we have 10 okay, 10, okay, let me do it. If we have 10 keys in the universe of keys, right? So, and we say, okay, the table table size we make, let's say, 5, right? Then we make a table here, okay, and we will call it a hash table, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, like this is slot number 1, this is slot number 2, this is slot number 3, this is slot number 4, and this is slot number 5, right? You, depending upon the implementation, you can start with 0 as well. But now if we have, let's say, keys, let's say, okay, because we said that, okay, universe of keys will have 10 keys, but it's not necessary that we get all these 10 keys in the actual in the reality. Instead, maybe we have, let's say, key 1, key 3, key, let's say, 9, and let's say key, let's say, 10, right? So actually in reality we may end up having only these 4 keys. Now the problem here is that since we have not made the table equivalent to the size of the universal set, so the slot numbers and the keys are not directly being mapped to each other, right? So what will we be doing? We will be having a function here we'll be having a mapping function here. I will be telling you about the details of the mapping function, how this is created, but for the sake of present example, just assume that this key will be passed to this function, and this function will return an index I in the range of 1 to 5, right. So instead of storing this key directly into the table, we will be passing, in case of hashing, we will be passing this key first to the mapping function, and the mapping function will then tell us which slot we should use to store this particular key. Similarly, the same will happen for the rest of the keys. Now this table is called the hash table, right, and this function, which is the mapping function, is called the hashing function. It's also called the mapping function as well. You call it mapping function, hashing function. This is hash table. So whole of this concept, this thing 1, this thing, and this 2 thing, both of these things combine to create the concept of hashing, right. And within these two concepts, there are a lot of issues which needs to be resolved, and we'll be talking about this in today's lecture and in the next couple of lectures as well. So the hash tables, the ideal table data structure is merely an array of some fixed size containing elements. The concept of hashing has the concept of hashing has two portions. It has an array which is called the hash table, and a mapping function also called the hashing function, which I told you earlier. And this is used, the complete concept of hashing is used to perform insertion, deletion, lookup yani ki search, and maybe update as well, on an average in constant time. By constant time we mean order of 1, right. So it actually does not exactly works in order of 1, but with reasonable assumption it works in order of 1 time. Now if you see here, this is the universe of keys, and this concept, this figure actually shows the concept of hashing. The picture quality is not very good, but if you see here, this key k1 is passed to a function. If it's not very visible, let me write it legibly as this function h of k1. It's like this, right. Okay, it's like h of k1. Now what you notice here is that instead of directly passing this key or getting the index through k1, we are passing it to the function h, which is the hashing function or mapping function, and this function then tells us about the index where to go. Now prior to this, if you see the concept of direct addressing, okay, this is the figure. If you see the direct addressing, what happened here is that we got a key, let's say 2, we directly went to the slot number 2. Instead of having h of 2, we directly went to the slot number 2, because we were guaranteed in case of direct addressing table that slot number 2 will be available there. But in case of hashing, we first need to pass this key to a hashing function, and then the hashing function will let us know which slot to be used to save this key k1, right. Now to compare the concept of hashing and direct addressing, the direct addressing requires the storage space which is equivalent to the size of the universal set, right. And if you want to store a key let's assume we want to store key k, then we simply go to the slot k, right? But in case of hashing, the storage space is set to a fixed small number m, right? M can be any small number and it's a fixed number. And if you want to store a key k in hash table, then instead of directly going to k, as was the case for direct addressing, we first pass this k to the hashing function, and this hashing function then tells us about the slot where to store, right? Both have the advantage of executing dictionary operations in order of one time, but the hashing requires a lot less memory as compared to direct addressing, right? And hashing is rather practical as well in real world scenarios. Now, within hashing, now from this point onwards, let's forget about direct addressing. We will go with hashing. Within hashing, there is a concept or an issue which can happen. Let me demonstrate it. Okay. Let me demonstrate. For example, we have a hash table. We have a hash table, and we have, let's say, keys. Okay. Right. We have keys, let's say k1, k9, k7, right? These are the keys. Now, and this is a hash table with, let's say, many slots, and there we have the mapping function. And what we will be doing, we will be passing this key k1 to this hashing function, and this hashing function, let's say, gives us this slot, right? And maybe we pass this k2 to this hashing function. How this hashing function works, that is a separate topic. We will be covering that. So for present, assume that it works fine. Okay, then this key k2 is passed, and maybe this is assigned this slot. But for example, this k7 is passed to this hashing function, and this hashing function says, okay, save this to this slot as well. But here k1 was already saved. Here we had k9, right? But now this hashing function says that, okay, this save this k7 at this slot as well, right? So this is an issue which is known as collision, right? This issue is known as collision, right? So this is vividly demonstrated here. Now there are two methods, rather there are not just two methods, there are more than two methods to resolve collision, right? Okay, this one is finished. Let me start the other one. So there are two methods to resolve collision, but there are alternate methods as well, which I'll be talking about shortly. But to resolve collision, the first one is called chaining, and the second one is called open addressing, right? Now, coming to the resolution number one to resolve collision, which is called chaining. Now in chaining, instead of going to slide, let me draw it for you. In chaining, for example, we have a hash table. Now what we do is, within each cell of the hash table, we actually don't save values, right? What we do, we have keys, and this is let's say a mapping function. So these keys are passed to this mapping function. This mapping function gives you a slot. This gives you a slot, and what you do is that you go to that slot, but instead of saving your data in the slot, you make a node in front of this slot, and then you store your data in that particular node. It may be a node of a linked list, it may be a structure type variable, but it's better to make a linked list because later we will be connecting it as well. Now in chaining, what happens that, okay, this one blue key, for example, is saved here. Okay, then you get a green key, for example, which is stored here, right? Okay, then another key appears and the mapping function says, okay, store it here. Now if you see here, this slot is already booked. This contains the address of this green node, right? So in chaining method to resolve collision, what we do, when multiple keys are mapped to the same slot, we add the new key at the end of the linked list, right? So this is how we resolve collision using the chaining method of collision resolution, right? If you see here, this is visually demonstrated using a set of keys, where when multiple keys are stored or mapped to one slot, so a chain of linked list is created to resolve this issue, right? But there can be issues, but depending upon the mapping function. I have not gone into the details of the mapping function, but if the mapping function is very bad, for example, let me give you an example of mapping a bad mapping function. For example, and this here somebody writes return 1, that's all. Like whatever key you give, this always returns 1. So everything you enter into the hash table will first go into the mapping function. Mapping function will say, okay, go to slot number 1, you will go to slot number 1, you will store your data here. Next key comes and you go to slot number 1 again and you store your data. Next key comes and you go to slot number 1, and so on and so forth. So everything ends up being stored linearly. So what's the fun of making this complete hash table and hash function, that you end up having a linear array or a linear linked list? So in this case, the cost of insertion, deletion and updation will be order of n instead of order of 1. So this is due to this bad or this weak mapping function, right? Okay, now but with reasonable function, and we will be I'll be discussing the properties of good mapping function in the later lecture, but if we assume that uniform hashing occurs, by uniform hashing I mean for example a key, let's say a key 99 comes and this is given to a mapping function. Now by uniform hashing we mean that the probability of each slot being assigned to this key is equal, right? There is no slot with higher probability to be assigned a key. So each slot has the equal probability to be assigned a key, right? So this is called uniform hashing. Now in chaining, let me read out the slide so that I may not miss any point. We put all the elements that hash to the same slot in a linked list. Worst case, as I told you, that all keys may be mapped to a single slot. It will end up having order of n time complexity, but in best and average case this works in order of 1, right? So this is an example where initially no key is mapped to the hash table. So every slot in the hash table has the null pointer, right? Then some couple of keys are mapped to the hash table. So this slot does not contain null anymore, and instead they store the address of the of this node and this node respectively, right? Now let us come to the analysis of chaining, but before that please note that I have not yet covered this open addressing. So I will be covering this shortly as well, maybe this lecture on the next one. So let us analyze the concept of chaining. Right? Assume simple uniform hashing. Each key in the table is equally likely to be hashed to any slot, right? So the simple uniform hashing, each key in the table is equally likely to be mapped to any slot. So it means no slot has higher priority than others. It means that if we have in total n keys and m slots, right? For example, we have 20 keys, right? We have 20 keys and we have 10 slots, right? So it means the load factor alpha is n by m. In this case, n divided by m is equal to 2. It means that in each slot we will have a maximum of 2 keys, right? So this is the average number of keys per slot. This is called the load factor or alpha in the hash table. Now, what will be the average cost of an unsuccessful search of a key? Okay, if you want, if you have a key which you want to search in the hash table, now what will you do? You will first pass this key to the hash function. This hash function will give you a slot, right? You will go to this slot and maybe in front of this slot there is a linked list. The size of the linked list will be equivalent to this alpha, right? So the average cost of an unsuccessful search will be most probably order of 1, because we assume that this works in order of 1 plus alpha, right? So I hope it's like this. Yes, it's order of 1 plus alpha. What will be the average cost of successful search? Most probably the same, because in worst case, if you have the list as the key in the hash table as well, but in worst case it will be placed in the last cell, right? So the cost is same as well, but oh, I missed the point. What is the average cost, right? In average cost, of course, the key will be placed in the middle of the linked list. So you have to divide the alpha by 2. So it's alpha by 2. So ultimately it's also alpha, because it will again be a numeric value. Now, so the cost of alpha is the cost of search is order of 1 plus alpha in case of resolution of collision in the hash tables using chaining. If the total number of keys n is proportional, if the total number of keys n is proportional to the number of slots in the table, what is alpha? Of course, it means that if we have n is equal to m, then alpha is equal to n divided by m. Both are same, so it will be 1, right? So it will be 1. So that was the analysis of chaining. Okay, before I begin the next lecture, let me stop this chunk and we will start with the next lecture after this. Thank you.